Cheers. Happy almost New Year. I'm just taking a sip of my Topo Chico in a very fancy, I would guess this is probably about a $3 champagne glass because I am that fancy. My Topo Chico is probably more than the actual glass. One more sip to really get wild, really get loose here. And I was kind of disappointed. I heard that a couple of the people that usually host the shows where the ball drop aren't drinking on air this year. And that I kind of looked forward to when that became kind of a thing because they would inevitably, well, make asses of themselves. But I liked hearing them kind of a little more unfiltered. I guess that's frowned upon. So here's to that. And here's to having a podcast, an unfiltered podcast. I'm Nikki Lynn Chase, and this is my podcast, Adult Chicken, completely unfiltered. This is the 30th episode. It's about my journey, my stories, my life, navigating life's unexpected as a single mom to two special needs kids. And in lieu of it being almost New Year's, I am just here to celebrate that this is episode number 30. I can't believe it's been a whole 30. I am so excited because I think it's slowly but surely gaining traction. Although it was funny, I went to visit right before Christmas. The kids and I went up to a friend of ours' farm, and it's the most beautiful, I mean, it's just a slice of heaven. It's gorgeous. It looks like a movie set. The horses live in a barn that is by far nicer than any home I've ever even walked into. It's just absolutely gorgeous. The chicken coop, which I got to hold some very fancy special chickens, was incredible. And that was a new addition since we'd been there last. But anyway, the fixtures in just the chicken coop are nicer than any home I've ever lived in. And it's just an incredible place. But we went up there and we were visiting and we were talking about the podcast. And she had asked me how it was doing, how many followers I had, and what was going on. She had heard that it had made it into the LA Times and that I'd been on the radio. And I said, I think I'm up to like over 100. And she said, like 100,000? And I said, no, like really about 100. I don't know. I'm not good enough with, first of all, my math skills suck. And I also, as far as how everything talks to each other between the podcast hosting platforms as well as YouTube, I honestly don't quite know. But the goal has been achieved, and that goal was to start the podcast, which I did, and I launched it on April 22nd of 2022 of this year. And I went in having no idea what I was doing. I knew what I was going to talk about, and it was simply going to be an honest, authentic, unfiltered version of my life, and the only version of my life, because it's the honest and truthful, crazy stories that have everything to do with my family and just me and my life and my journey through life. Again, I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm winging it every single episode I put together. I wing it. And it's been extremely challenging, but it's been uberly rewarding. It's been rewarding in the fact that it's been cathartic. And I've said this before, it's very therapeutic for me to retell stories. Some of these I haven't thought about for a couple of decades or even longer. I have been given so much insight just retelling things about my life. I've been given so much insight as far as why I am sort of wired the way I am. And between that and the several hours of therapy I attend, or the couch sitting I do, it's just been extremely amazing, and it's been an exciting journey. It's not always fun. Some of the subjects have been painful, more so probably to listen to me tell since I lived through it. One in particular was the episode rated R, and it was interesting because when I was on the radio station for Greater LA, the host of that show really picked out that topic of domestic violence. And I was surprised. I didn't know what we were going to talk about. I didn't know the questions that he was going to ask. And he had picked that one out. And I was kind of surprised, thinking, oh, wow, that was just a story I told. That was just something that was part of my getting to where I am now. And for me, it wasn't so painful to tell. I'd say there was a hint of just relief, I guess, telling it and saying it out loud. It was always something I was embarrassed about and mortified that I lived through, but there was some relief in telling the story. And when I heard it, and I heard it with another person involved, meaning the host of Greater LA, I was very surprised that that was my story, even though I lived it and I endured it and I understood it. And I was very surprised that with the journey of the podcast, I had come to a place in my life where, wow, that story is out there. It's out there for the universe and it is cathartic. And so I was reflecting quite a bit as I get through the week but between Christmas and New Year's. And I hate this week. In fact, I hate it so much that I needed to Google yesterday. I finally Googled to see if other people hate it as much. I was kind of looking for that misery loves company thing. And I try to stay off Google because you always find what you're looking for. And in this case, it was kind of helpful. I understood maybe why I was feeling the way I was because I was really trying to figure out why do I hate it so much? Is it just the getting so excited for Christmas and then, you know, it's over at about 7:15 a.m. You know, there's this lead up, months worth of a lead up, in particular the whole entire month of December, in our case, starting December 1st when Buddy dropped off the Disney tickets, Buddy the Elf on the Shelf. And then it just was one-upping myself each and every day and making the decorations look perfect and that preparation. And then all of a sudden it's just done. Put on 5 pounds and that's going to take the better part of the beginning of the new year to take off. And everything's just over and it's just done and it makes me sad. And there's this feeling of, is it from my past Christmases that I didn't realize sucked as much as they did? And now that I know, but that's not true because I think it's just the sadness of something with so much effort put into and the expectation of it just being over. It makes me a little bit sad. I hate Christmas lights after Christmas, yet I struggle to take the tree down. I thought maybe it had something to do with working retail for most of my past life because here I was working Christmas Eve and then we did typically have, I think, Christmas Day off, but then we were back at it and it was in a resort town. So it was a bunch of resort people on vacation, a bunch of rich assholes, to be honest with you, that were coming in and exchanging things or returning things. And everybody's in a different mood that week in between Christmas and New Year's. And I also bartended along with being in retail. So then you had the miserable drunk people or the happy vacationing drunk people, whatever the case was. I was really trying to get to the bottom of why I dislike this week so much. And then I realized when I Googled it and read all of the quote unquote facts about what this holiday represents, it here in the States is called Dead Week. It's like the week for people to kind of chill, and some jobs give you the week off. A lot of employers have started giving people the entire week off, and depending on when Christmas falls, people don't know what to do with the week. And I realized I was not alone in that I don't know what day it is. I don't know what's going on. I'm eating sweets and stuff I would never, ever eat throughout or during any other time of the year. I'm just kind of waiting because I know I'm going to start those New Year's resolutions. I know I'm going to start that clean slate feeling on New Year's Day. And I get so excited about that. But I don't like this week. And what I kept reading in the one article I read, it wasn't interesting enough to me to really dive into it. I learned what the Norwegians called it, which was like Romuel. It has to do with Yule or room, making room, and Yule, I guess. And I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right, but something like that. And then, of course, it's known as Boxing Day in other parts of the world where people make room for their new Christmas gifts by gifting their old Christmas stuff in the past. Anyway, so I learned enough about it. But what I realized, what it does for people, it gives people a week to relax, to just kind of forget things, to not be on social media, to not do anything as far as a routine goes. And I thought, it dawned on me. That's why I'm so uncomfortable during what's known in the States as Dead Week. I hate it. I don't know how to relax. I don't chill. So when the expectation is that you go through a whole entire week of just relaxing. I don't know what to do with myself. It's just very uncomfortable for me. All of it has just had me want to ball up and be in bed until the new year so I can really come out and go, okay, I am ready for this. But it was funny because a friend of mine who we met for lunch the other day had suggested I just let myself like just give in to the week. She knew I was struggling and she said, just give in to it. She's like, you have to watch this series and it's called Dead to Me and it's on Netflix. It's the one with Christina Applegate and I forget the other actress's name, but just incredible. And I'd seen little trailers for it and I wanted to see it, but again, I have moderation problems. I am not allowed to watch series. I have the moderation issues that cause me to not be able to stop watching them. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to allow myself this leading up to New Year's Eve. I'm just going to get one last series out of my system. And I started and I couldn't stop. And I stayed up until 2:30 the first morning. Thank God it's only 3 seasons. And thank God the episodes are only about 20 some odd minutes. But it was making me feel terrible about myself. And then I jokingly got after my friend who suggested I watch it. I said, I told you, do not suggest I watch things like that. I can't stop watching it. I love it so much. It's so good and I can't stop. And we were laughing and I had told her about my discovery when I Googled what this week is and how it's called Dead Week when I was trying to really get to the bottom of why I dislike this week so much. And she came up with this. I can't take credit. And I thought it was so awesome. She said, so in your case, it's Dead to Me Week because that's the name of the series. Dead to Me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's known as Dead Week. Yes, this is Dead to Me Week. I am going with that. And that just gave me a whole newfound acceptance for this week in particular. And I promised myself next year at this time, I will either just give into the week and enjoy it and or just be uberly productive to prepare myself for New Year's Day. Now, New Year's Day is just a couple days away. And unlike some other years in my past where I'm like, I need this year to be over. This year has been incredibly challenging, just offering all kinds of new adventures. But unlike other years, I'm not dying for it to be over. I mean, I'm ready for it to be over. Every year, I'm always ready to see it in the rearview mirror and get on and eager to find out what's going to happen in the following year. But this year wasn't so awful where I just couldn't wait to get to the other side of it. I am excited. I always tell people I'm not a resolution person. Of course, I'm a resolution person. I can't wait to wipe the slate clean. I do it twice a year. I do it on my birthday because I say that's my official new year. That's when I reboot. So I always say on my birthday, I'm officially starting over. And then I do it on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day with the rest of the world. So to celebrate the exit of the year 2022 and bringing in the year 2023, I'm doing my own special little countdown of each and every episode that I have done. So I started today with episode number 30. This marks the big 3-0. So, woo, if I had my whistle, I need my New Year's whistle. It would be really loud in the mic. But anyway, toot toot. And then let's see. We're just going to go down as I count down. Number 29, A Not So Silent Night. Of course, that was where I had the kids and I sang Merry Christmas and Sandler had passed gas. There's a lot more to it than that, but it was just such, I was going to delete it. I was not going to put something so crass as his gas in the episode, but it was such a great representation of my minute by minute life with my family, the kids, the gas, Bootsy's dog, Kevin. I mean, it was just absolutely chaotic. It was an absolute disaster. And that's what our life looks like on a minute by minute basis. Number 28, 'Twas the Night Before Mommy's Meltdown. I think this had everything to do with our little trip to Disneyland and Buddy the Elf on the shelf coming in so hot with the tickets to Disneyland the 1st of December and then having to just keep up with myself and the expectation of what Christmas represents. an absolute myth and lie. All the things that are becoming unacceptable now as a parent. Number 27, the Caribbean Christmas. My worst Christmas to date ever in my whole entire life was the last Christmas I spent with anybody in my immediate family, other than my kids, of course. It was with my mom and my brother before my mom died, and my brother lived in Grand Cayman, so that was an exciting one. It was also the first and only time I think I really seriously contemplated ending my life. So there was that exciting element. Number 26, marvelous moderation. I just mentioned I have moderation problems. This is all about my moderation problems. I have problems with my moderation drinking seltzer water. As you can see, I've got my champagne glass filled. I'll have another sip just to prove I'm not lying about my moderation issues. I also just mentioned being stuck on the series Dead to Me, and that's all part of this number 26, all my moderation problems. Number 25, Free Like a Birdman. That was the episode where we were having one of our challenges of the year where Sandler was really suffering, and he had had a really terrible incident with a person he thought was his buddy, called Sandler some names and some horrible ones. And Tony Hawk reached out. I had reposted something that he had posted about being treated poorly and being bullied when he was a kid on a skateboard, and the fact that skateboarding had given him such a freedom. And then he had reached out and sent Sandler a message, which was pretty awesome and incredible. Number 24, Shit in a Box. Now, this one should have come out probably closer to Christmas, but as Christmas stuff was coming out, I just couldn't wait to tell this story. And it was about probably the best and worst gift I've ever given, which was given to my ex. And it was during a really hard Christmas. I was broke. I was exhausted. I was spent. And I just wanted to give him a gift honoring the amount of disdain I pretty much feel for him. So that was a fun. I just should have timed that a little differently. I think I was a little eager to share that, but that's one of my favorite Christmas stories. Number 23, Happy Days. This was our Halloween. We dressed as Happy Days. Every year I make my kids do a family costume with me. There are a couple years Bootsy's gotten out of it because she's refused. They don't usually know who I'm making them be, but this year I was Chachi, Bootsy was Joni, and Sandler was the Fonz. The year before we were Fantasy Island. We've also been Three's Company. We've been 50 First Dates. Sandler and I were Courtney Love and Kurt Cobain, and those are some of my favorite Halloween costumes, are the family ones that I make them endure. Let's see, number 22, my go-to face. Oh, this is a smile that I wear. I usually am, to quote Elf, because I've just recently watched that movie probably another 487 more times, and he says, smiling's my favorite. And I do have to say, smiling is my favorite, and it is my go-to face. I'm always smiling. When I'm uncomfortable, I'm smiling. I'm usually a pretty happy person, so I'm always smiling. My awkward face is a smile as well. And I also mentioned living in Southern California, and I know it's everywhere, but there's a lot of Botox and filler, and I had I had a go at trying Botox or filler. I don't know what it was I had done, put in my upper lip, and I couldn't talk right till it went away. It was a little scary. I never did that again. Okay, number 21, Rated R. That's the one I referenced that was all about domestic violence, is all about domestic violence. That was an important one. I think it was really hard for people to hear. It wasn't really that hard for me to tell. I had a friend of mine ask me after he'd listened to it, he said, how are you doing? And I had no idea what he was talking about. I said, I'm fine. How are you doing? Like, what's up? And he said, well, that just must have been really hard for you to talk about. And I said, yeah, it really isn't. It was weird because I don't think about it. It's not something I think about all the time. There are things that will jar my memory and it'll come to mind, but it's not something I think about. It's not something I dwell on, but I felt like it was an important story to share, knowing that I had started a smidge bit of a following. And I thought if this story is something that will help somebody else or take comfort in knowing somebody else has been through it and could get out, then that has done something for me. And it was also very cathartic to just admit that that was a part of my life. And it's gotten me to the better parts of my life. So that was rated R, number 21. Number 20, horny, hairy, and hormonal. Okay, so that's been a huge mile marker for this year. That came about with, of course, me hitting the ripe old age of 49. So I'm entering this whole new stage of getting old and what that does to your hormones. And then Sandler, we entered the world of endocrinology. More or less, we all agreed. I would say they insisted, but it's pretty much there's not really an option if he's going to live as close to a normal life as he can. He needed to get testosterone injections, which that just jump started puberty. And there's nothing like going through puberty with teenage kids, of course, but then add the whole added bonus of being special needs. So that has presented all kinds of exciting, interesting new obstacles and challenges. So I'm sure there's going to be many sequels to number 20. Again, horny, hairy, and hormonal. Number 19, smile, we're all human. Let's see, this one's a little bit of a fog, but I do know that I had dedicated this one to the important part of this episode for me was that I had dedicated it to Adam Merriman, a good friend of mine who had passed away. And that was just it was a tragedy and it was a very sad moment. So I know that this just really, the episode was more about just people, everybody, all walks of life having something in common, no matter whether you're rich, poor, whatever your background is, we all are human. And then dedicated to Adam. Number 18, The Glass Cruise Ship. Now, that title has to do with the Glass Castle. And it happened to be one of the most meaningful books I probably have ever read. It's one of those that I've told myself I'm going to reread a couple times a year. I'll never do that, but I have it sitting somewhere to remind myself that I made that plan. That was our trip to Alaska, which was life-changing. I will never go on another cruise to Alaska. I will never go probably on another cruise ever. I will never go on that kind of trip with my children ever again. And it was one of the most beautiful moments of my life. The scenery was incredible, and it was probably the closest to having just the most epic mental breakdown of my entire life. And I was contained and confined on a ship, so that very, very interesting. But that book, The Glass Castle, helped me get through it, and I think the results were good. I think it was life-changing and amazing. Number 17, Medicine and Miracles. This was dedicated to the Dream Street Foundation, which this is a lot about the different medicines, the medical experiences I've had to go through, especially with Sandler, I think he's on about his 13th surgery, and also the miracles, just the things that weren't supposed to happen and did, and the magical miracles and the things that came with us being so immersed in the medical community. And we ended up, Bootsy, starting at age 5, started going to a camp, Dream Street, and it is a foundation. It's a camp that they put together for a week out of the year. Of course, it's been on hiatus since the pandemic, but it's a week-long camp for chronically and terminally ill kids. And these kids go to this camp and they make their dreams come true for an entire week. A lot of these kids are so sick they are unable to return the next year. A lot of them don't make it because of their illness. And it's a chance for the parents to feel comfortable that their kids are being taken care of. It's got a full medical staff, a full medical unit on the premises, and it is the most incredible foundation. If you have any money you need to donate or you want to give to a good cause, this I highly recommend giving to Dream Street Foundation. It's absolutely unbelievable. Number 16, Happy Birthday, Chucky. Of course, that was Sandler's birthday. That's when I dressed up as Chucky and I went all around town and I did his favorite things. I went to the Ferrari dealership. I went skateboarding. That was dangerous. I'd just gotten out of my boot, or I took my boot off and decided to skateboard with a Chucky mask on. It was brilliant. He wanted to go to a titty bar for his birthday, so I emulated a gentleman's club in my Chucky outfit as well. Number 5, I'm sure that the parents of the world will really support that one. Oh, walk a mile in my shoes. Okay, number 15, Kevin the dog. That's all about Bootsy's favorite best friend, her amazing, awesome dog, Kevin, and how she got Kevin. Number 14, parental identity crisis. So when I put the promo video together for this one, it was me dressed as all the different moms I kind of thought I was going to be. And I didn't turn out to be any of those moms. There was a phase, the different phases, I guess, of my motherhood. Thought I was going to be sort of the working mom. You know, when Bootsy was young, I went back to work and I ended up with a career job. I was a creative director. I traveled a lot, and I pictured myself as like that businesswoman, you know, the career mom, the mom that gets it all done. I'm not that person. I'm not that personality. And then Sandler came along, ended up so sick, I ended up not being able to work. That changed everything. And I was never going to be that career mom again. And then I went through the phase of thinking tennis mom, you know, or soccer mom, whatever. I guess I grew up in a tennis family. We played tennis. Everything was competitive, and all of those moms, we did 2 seasons of organized team sports, and it was baseball. And nope, that was never gonna be me. Hell no. And then, the natural thing. I remember before my kids, this is when they were really young, I was gonna make all of their food. You know, they weren't gonna eat anything processed. And then, my God, then Sandler ends up on a feeding tube. I was gonna breastfeed him for eternity. Oh God, no. I had Sandler, and then he ended up on a feeding tube. I guess he was about 3.5, 4 months old when he ended up on a feeding tube, and that just blew everything out of the mix. I became the most probably unnatural parent in the world. Number 13, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Husband. Oh God, the material the ex has given me. So I think again, some of these are cringeworthy and people think, oh my God. But to me, when you're married to such a nut job, and that is probably the kindest thing I could call him, the material, the things that you find in your neighbor's closet, essentially. Losing my New Year's hat, I think. Let's see here. Then we've got, Uncle. That's about my crazy psycho nutty uncle. That was my mom's brother. He was very interesting, total stupid criminal. And he was married to a Bond's girl, James Bond girl, who was literally an octopussy. So I had to tell about Uncle Alan, weirdo. Let's see, Ferraris and Freedom. That was all about, I had been going through the process with my ankle, and it was broken, and I'd been thrown in a boot, and I literally couldn't do running as my thing, and I couldn't do it. And of course, it took skateboarding away from me, and this doctor was not fixing it. And I took Sandler to a Ferrari show, and the doctor, I guess he saw us there, and I went to my next appointment. He said, "Did I see you at the Ferrari dealership?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "You know what? I'm going to have you see the ankle specialist I work with." And I thought, I've been in a fucking boot for 3 months, and you're just now, because you saw me at a Ferrari dealership that I accidentally stumbled upon because I was driving the kids to McDonald's. Not because I'm in the market for a Ferrari, but I thought, God, it's amazing what a Ferrari can do. And then the ankle specialist ended up doing a simple surgery. I could have had it done forever ago, but 5 months in a boot will teach you a thing or two about tolerance and patience, I suppose. Makes you appreciate when things work. Number 10, therapize this. That's just about all the time my life requires for me to sit on a couch and discuss life with a therapist. And I've got a great one. That's an amazing person that he probably requires a lot of therapy after visits with me. Poor thing. Number 9, the granny nanny. That's all about me. I offered to take care of my dad's mom, and I inherited her and couldn't get rid of her for 3 years. That provided amazing stories. She was a horribly mean person. Not the apple did not fall too far from the tree in my dad's case from that relative. Number 8, the short bus. I grew up with people, and I myself also made comments growing up, and we knew special ed people or special needs people as short bus riders and window lickers. And there was a day when Sandler got on the school bus, and he was tiny. He was going to preschool, and he got on the school bus, and it was, in fact, a short bus, and he was licking the window. And I thought to myself, well, this is your life. And it was just an amazing day of acceptance of my life. Number 7, AAA, acting, alcohol, and anxiety. Just 3 things that were a huge part of my life. And I don't know, I guess sort of, I think have been defining elements of my life that have brought me to where I am today, if I had to sum that up. Let's see, number 6, Special Eddie. Of course, this was all about my godparents and Ed and Gwen Rudolph, dedicated to them as well. 2 best, most important humans in my entire life. They were killed in a car accident, but they were much closer to me than my own parents were. And they were the parents I wish I had had. And I did have them as substitute parents, especially at the beginning of finding out about my kids' diagnoses. And they had also had 2 infant daughters that had a rare genetic disorder, and they unfortunately had passed away, but they were the only 2 people in the world who were allowed to tell me you're only given what you can handle, because they too had been given so much to handle. And they really, if anyone could relate and give me comfort in knowing that sort of this too shall pass and you're going to get through this. And again, you're only given what you can handle. And I appreciate that they were there, and I miss them terribly. Number 5, awing life's obstacles. Skateboarding. If you have listened to any of these podcasts, you probably are aware, or if you know Sandler, my son, at all. And the fact that I am also newly addicted to skateboarding. It's just all about skateboarding. Skateboarding has become our life school. My kids do not go to school, and it sounds ridiculous, I know, to most people. Oh, a board with 4 wheels. What does that do for you? Gosh, it's done everything for us. And when Sandler began skateboarding, it's gotten him to where he is. It's propelled every fiber in his body. It's propelled his cognitive abilities. It's propelled his confidence. It's propelled everything. And it's been our social network. It's been so much to us. It's our community. It's our village. And it's one of the best things that's ever happened to us. Number 4, Gorillas in the Colorado Mist. That's about the best and worst prank ever pulled on my mother. My mother, who I also explain our relationship and the kind of person she was and the kind of person I grew up with as a mom. Number 3, Adult Chicken. That is the story of how this podcast came to be known as Adult Chicken and what Adult Chicken is. That's an important one. And just if you don't have time or you don't want to know, it's weed in our house, but you might want to listen so you understand why we call it Adult Chicken. Number 2, TMFDOT. That also stands for the Motherfucking Do-Over Tour. As soon as I left Colorado, packed the 3 duffel bags and the 2 kids, and we relocated, I started calling our new life, which I still call it our new life, and sometimes still refer to it as the Motherfucking Do-Over Tour. That's what I was calling it. It was just a motherfucking do-over tour. And episode number 1, what to expect when you're not expecting. which is obviously what this whole entire podcast is about. And it's about my life. It goes with the title of the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting. And I sort of had to let all of that shit go when I was pregnant with Sandler and found out that he was about what he had, that he was going to be special needs and he was going to have potentially all of these problems. And his sister then at the same time was also diagnosed with the exact same thing, unbalanced translocation of chromosomes 2 and 8. I was the carrier. I gave it to them. And from that day forward, everything was thrown out, including that book, What to Expect When You're Expecting, because my life was going to be what to expect when you're not expecting, because it's always something unexpected. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for helping me grow this thing. Thank you for telling your friends about it if you have. Thank you for sharing when you have done so. Thank you to those of you who have written reviews. So helpful and so amazing. This podcast has opened the doors for me to hear from people I haven't heard from or spoken to or seen in years. And it's been such a beautiful opportunity to connect with people that I probably otherwise wouldn't have. I've gotten those messages from people who have said my story helped them deal with a certain subject, or it's given them just that feeling of it's going to be okay. If she could get through it, I can too. And I just want to thank anybody and everybody who is listening and continues to do so. Please, my shameless self-promotion, please continue to share. I really want to generate more traction on this thing. I'm enjoying it so much. I am still winging it. I still have no idea what I'm doing. The year 2023 will try to be a year of dialing it in a little more, educating myself a little bit more about the whole getting it out there. But it was a beautiful thing to have an article written on me in the LA Times. It was incredible to be on KCRW. And just please continue to like, follow, share, shout out to the world, the universe, write reviews if you feel inclined. It's very, very helpful. It's really good for my for my down days. I'll go back and read the nice things people have written, and I just so enjoy it. The support has been incredible, and I appreciate it very much. Please tune in next week because we're bringing in the new year. I'm bringing in the new year with a bang. Literally a bang. It's all about sex. So please tune in to episode number 31. Like, follow, share, subscribe. You can find me on YouTube at Adult Chicken, also Apple and Spotify podcasts, Adult Chicken, as well as adult_chicken, which is my Instagram. And what am I forgetting? Oh, adultchicken.com. Make sure you get the .com in there. And of course, have a very safe and happy new year.